a collection, a group, a species, right? But it means along the same line. So if you take a mantra such as Om Namah Shivaya, your mind is constantly changing all the time, luckily, because otherwise you'd all be stuck on the same channel. And as a mantra goes through your mind, it's a flow of thought, but you want the flow of thought to be consistent and flowing in the same direction. And the meditation, the manasavyapara, the mental activity, should be vijatiya vritti rahita. It should be free of distracting thoughts. So that's one definition of japa. And it's meant to make you present. It's a skill to develop. Arjuna said to Sri Krishna that the mind is as challenging to control as the wind. And Sri Krishna says, yes, you're right. But with abhyasa and vairagya, you can tame the mind. So by abhyasa, it means by practice. Being able to set the mind on one object of meditation is a skill to develop. And by vairagya, right? We don't want to be self-condemning. The mind is going to be distracted. And so when the mind goes off, we say, okay, and you come back. You acknowledge your mind is distracted and you come back. And japa is a mental, usually it can be vachaka, it can be verbal, but it's usually a mental activity, a repetition of God's name. And some people practice japa with a japa mala, right? But some people practice japa, they have a commitment. I will say my mantra 108 times, and there are 108 beads on a japa mala, on a rosary. And it'll be one more thing to do in the morning. So I need to get the kids up, I need to make their lunches. Do parents make lunches now, or are they all presented? Are they all in the school? Do they feed them at school? I don't know. And so then you have to get dressed, and then I have to do my mantra. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 right? It becomes a race because you want to do those, and it's just one more thing to do. It's much better to do 10 quietening iterations of a mantra than rush through that practice. But one purpose of japa is to bring Ishvara into your life. And it's conducive to the practice of karma yoga, which we'll talk about in a moment. But there's no reason why you have to do japa just while sitting at your altar or on your meditation asana, right? We have so many, anybody here in computer technology? A few, okay. So we have so many free cycles, right? So many free manasa CPU cycles, mental CPU cycles, that just go to waste, right? You could be doing japa when you're doing the dishes, or when you're stuck in traffic, right? Where does the mind go? One of the purposes of meditation and japa is to help develop the skill to suspend the habitual mechanical associative thinking that we often have, right? You'll have one thought, and a thought will lead to another thought, and a thought will lead to another thought, and a thought will lead to another thought. So it's a skill to develop to keep that in one place. And it's also a skill to develop to bring your mind back to something sacred. When Pujya Swamiji was blessed to receive sannyasa diksha, initiation into becoming a monastic, as we say, another name for a sannyasi is monastic or contemplative, because that's one of our main jobs. He gave us our sannyasi mantra. And I can't tell it to you because then you'd all have to take sannyasa. But he said something interesting, something that he did not focus on a lot. He said, this mantra comes to me unbidden even now. Right? So he did japa so much that his natural tendency was for his mind to go back to the mantra, to do japa. So you know that his day was filled while he was walking in Rishikesh to get some water or going to class. He was doing this mantra. And what that does is that it trains the mind to come back to something sacred. And initially, what one might come back to is Ishvara, a form of the Lord, right? Because many mantras, all mantras for grihastas, have a name of the Lord in it. So you develop the samskara to bring Ishvara into your life a bit. And then, once you begin to understand the nature of the self, when you come back to something sacred, what you'll be coming back to is appreciation of the truth of yourself, because the truth of yourself is not separate from the truth of Ishvara. So it's a very beautiful practice. And it helps quieten the mind. Chitta Naishchalya. Another practice is karma yoga. And Sri Krishna is all about karma yoga in the Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a yoga shastra and a Brahma Vidya, which means that it teaches the reality of the jiva, the individual, the reality of the jagat, the world, and the reality of Ishvara, and the relationship between those three. But it's also a handbook for gaining what's called antakarana shuddhi, a purity of mind. And I think of it as a devotional life engagement technology, right? And in the Gita, so when I studied here, in the evenings, Puja Swamiji would take Bhagavad Gita, and it took a couple years, because he took the Shankara Bhashya. So Shankaracharya wrote the oldest commentaries that we have on the Prasthanatraya, the Bhagavad Gita, 10 Upanishads, and the Brahma Sutra. And so when we studied here, we studied the traditional Sanskrit commentaries. And all of those classes were transcribed, and they were published as the Gita Home Study. Because before digital technology was robust enough for the guru to come into your home digitally, you'd have the opportunity to study, bring a group of people together to study exactly what we studied here in real time with Puja Swamiji. And there's many Gita Home Study groups. You can buy the hard copy books now. In fact, there's an application you can download for iOS, for iPad, for the iPhone, for Android, and it works on the Macintosh, I don't know about Windows, called The Teachings of Swami Advayatmananda. And I think there's many books that are available for download, and I'll tell you a secret, they're much cheaper on the application than they are if you get the hard copy. But it's a beautiful book to study, and it's a traditional presentation because he follows Shankaracharya's traditional presentation. And so the dynamics of living a life of karma yoga, some people think that karma yoga is seva. That may fit in, but really it's a transformation of how you engage in the world in terms of how you receive what comes to you and what you choose to do and offer into the world. So one of the primary aspects of karma yoga is Ishvara Prasada Buddhi. It's an attitude to taking that everything that comes to you is grace. So let's say you go to the temple and you bring fruit. You often bring fruit when you go to do a puja. And luckily Bhagavan is a very light eater, so you usually get most of that fruit back. But let's say it's lunchtime and the pujari takes a little bit. Let's say you bring an orange and a banana. And you love oranges, because who doesn't like orange? And you dislike bananas. And so you give them the pujari, he does the puja, and he keeps the orange and gives you back the banana. Now the banana does not conform to your desire system. Kama is twofold, raga and dvesha. So we have raga towards those things that we believe will make us happy, and we have dvesha towards those things that we think will make us unhappy. Right? And so this banana, you have a dvesha towards this banana. It's not your fruit of choice. But how do you receive that banana? Do you throw it in the trash? No, you receive it as prasada, because it comes from Bhagavan. So even that which does not conform to your desires becomes accessible because it's infused with the sacred. And that's the attitude with which we approach, which we receive the givens in our life. Ishvara is represented as the karma pala datta, the giver of the results of action, because the very law of cause and effect is Ishvara. Puja Swamiji so beautifully said, Sanatana Dharma does not teach that there are many gods. It's not polytheistic. It does not teach that there's one God. It's not monotheistic. What the Shruti, what the Vedas, what the scriptures say is that there's only God. And if there's only God, that means the law of cause and effect is part of his manifestation. So you can anthropomorphize that, if you will, and understand that everything that comes to you is grace. We usually think of grace as the good stuff that happens to us, right? So we're driving to work, and there's a traffic jam, and we have a very important meeting. And all of a sudden, the traffic clears, and we manage to get to work, pull into the parking lot, and we get to the meeting on time. And you may think, you may say, I don't know what your colleagues are like, but you may say, oh, it's just grace. It was grace that I got to this meeting on time. Let's say instead of the traffic jam clearing, you got a flat tire and you missed your important meeting. What would you say about that? It's just a banana. It's grace. Everything that comes to you is grace. The givens that come to you in your life are a function of the unfoldment of your prarabdha. The packaging of your punya and papa, the adrishtapalam, the subtle results of previous action that are always mishra, are always a mixture, and they manifest as the opportunities and the challenges you face in life. And so Ishvara, being the karma phaladatta, is the giver of everything. Right? Even the fructification. I used the word fructification, and somebody a couple of days ago said, do you mean fractification? Are you talking about fractals? No, it means fruition. It means the fruition of the results of previous actions are coming to fruition here. And so if we approach what comes to us with this attitude, then our life becomes infused with grace. And we can deal with situations gracefully. Right? And Swadharma is determined by the givens in our life. What's the Swadharma of a mother? To be a good mother. What if little Arjuna needs his diaper changed, but or grandpa needs his diaper changed, and you'd rather go bowling? The situation calls your Swadharma is determined by the situation. So the Swadharma of a mother is to go change the diaper, right? So Bhagavan may give you poopy duty. It doesn't really matter. What comes to you is, and so the choices that we make in life are also part of Karma Yoga. Because what our Swadharma is calling us to do, what a situation, the most harmonious response to a given situation is dharma, and that may not conform to our ragas and dveshas. But if I can learn to choose dharma over adharma, Swamiji would say, freedom comes not in doing what you like, but learning to like what needs to be done. Right? And so if you conform to dharma, if ahimsa paramo dharmaha, ahimsa is the highest dharma, they say. And ahimsa means both non-injury, himsayaha abhavaha, but it also means himsayaha viroti. Because this akara at the beginning of himsa can mean the absence or the opposite. And what's the opposite of himsa, of injury? Compassion. Right? So living a big, compassionate, generous, a life wherein you give others the benefit of the doubt, where you approach people with generosity, right, is blesses the world and blesses you. And so when I choose dharma, what happens is that I conform to the law of dharma, and the world is blessed, and my sattva quotient goes up. Sri Krishna talks about sattva, rajas, and tamas in the Bhagavad Gita. And in that model, psychological model that he presents, the idea is to minimize problematic rajasica and tamasika characteristics and tendencies, and to become sattva guna pradhana, to have an abundance of sattva guna. What does that mean? It means to have to grow yourself emotionally into a mature human being who naturally expresses saintly qualities, like compassion, acceptance, quietude, compassion. And these practices of karma yoga give you samatvam. It allows you to greet the world joyfully and understand that you are not separate from Ishvara at any level. This sounds, this may be challenging for some people, but one of the attitudes, one of the goals of a karma yogi is to free Bhagavan from the temple. At first, we think that we go to the temple once a week to visit Bhagavan. But once you begin to understand really what Ishvara is, in your mind and your heart, you begin to understand that there's nothing here but Ishvara, and your life becomes permeated with Ishvara. And so, so it's a very transformative process, Karma Yoga. And so I encourage you to study the Bhagavad Gita if you want to know more. And bhakti. You can think of bhakti practices, devotional practices, as heart-opening technologies. Right? Attending the puja here, or doing your own puja, are beautiful practices. Before, when we were here, I came a year early before the course started. We just got this property, and because I didn't know anything about construction, but I wanted to help. I wanted to go to the course, so there I was. And Puja Swamiji would come frequently to see how things were going, and I really wanted to do puja. The temple wasn't inaugurated until, I think, 1990, 1991, after our course finished. And so it was so beautiful. Puja Swamiji sat with me and taught me the 16-step puja. And I used to go to the library when I was at college, and I would look through all the Puranas, and I'd find various Shiva Sahasranamas, 1,008 names of Shiva. And from those, I found a beautiful Chidambaram Sahasranama, and I think one was in the Shiva Purana, maybe Linga Purana, I forgot exactly where. And I compiled a list of my favorite 108 names and showed it to Puja Swamiji and said, when I do puja, I want to use these. And he said, fine, that's good. So every morning at 5:30 in the morning before meditation, I would do this puja. Now, it's not nearly as elaborate. You can do a 15-minute puja, right, if you just do a skeletal version. Dhupam agrapayami, deepam sandarshayami. It's beautiful. And so the fragrance just like the fragrance of the incense permeates the room, and you may take some with you, embedded in your clothing as you walk out the door, the fragrance of your bhakti is meant to permeate your life as you leave. So one way to initiate that devotional perspective, which blesses the practice of Karma Yoga, is to do something in the morning. Meditation, japa. The ritual is beautiful, and it helps open your heart. And it really helps when you go to the temple, if you understand with Sri Dakshinamurti, the profundity of the murti there, it's extraordinary. Maunam vyakya prakatita para brahma tattvayivanam varshishthante vasadirshikanairavratam brahma nishtaihi acharyendran karakalita chinmutramananda rupam swatma ramam udidavadanam dakshinamurti mide. It's extraordinary. This is Sri Dakshinamurti is the Ishvara, the Lord presented as Guru, right? And so through him comes the teaching. So he's a physical representation of the teaching. He has a Chinmudra. This is a physical representation of the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, right? He has the Jnana Ganga flowing through his locks. And there's all sorts of beautiful representation there. Sri Dakshinamurti Stotra is one of the texts that people believe was actually written by Adi Shankaracharya. And Puja Swamiji has taught it countless times, and it's a beautiful text that's available in the store, and I think it's available on the application too. So that was the first dhyana shloka, that was the first verse of the meditation verses that are addressed towards Sri Dakshinamurti. Now all of these practices of meditation or upasana, dhyana, japa, karma yoga, devotional practices. Oh, by the way, these devotional practices are extraordinary, like singing bhajan. Singing bhajan, just finding the sweetness of having the Lord's name on your tongue is extraordinary, because if it invokes the devotee in you, it invokes love in you. And as Puja Swamiji would say, love is a dynamic expression of your ananda swarupatvam atmanaha, of your own fullness and wholeness, which is your true nature. And sometimes there's nothing more blissful than just chanting the name of the Lord. And you discover causeless joy, right? When you discover the sweetness of chanting the name of the Lord, no desire is satisfied, but your heart opens and it wells up, right? And you discover that you have a direct access to causeless joy. And you can express that in your life by being a big person, right? By being someone who can offer someone a generous sense of generosity and acceptance. When I used to work in high tech, in Cubicle City, I used the imagery of Sri Dakshinamurti as a teacher. So when I was working, so if someone came to me and said, your programmers broke the build and now we can't ship the software because it won't compile. Some of you will know what I'm talking about. I'll say, DK, okay. Someone will say, oh, your project came in on time, super quality, and on budget. Which, of course, those of you in the know understand that never happens. It could be two of those three, but never all three of those. if you know anything about PMI, if you're a certified project manager. And so I saw these people who come to my cubicle as Dakshinamurti to teach me. Right? There's nothing here but Ishvara. And so Sri Krishna says one who has an inner quietude takes praise and blame with equanimity. And so I would see my emotional reaction regarding to, oh yes, I know we did such a good job, or oh, I need to go yell at my code monkey, my developer, right? But it's a beautiful imagery to work with. Anyway, these practices, the practices of dhyana, the practices of bhakti, can all fall under the umbrella of karma yoga. Because why? Because they're all actions, right? They're all actions. And actions do what? Actions transform those things that are transformable. What is transformable? Our character is transformable, our heart is transformable, our values are transformable, the quality of our mind is transformable. These are not the primary sadhanas of Vedanta. The primary sadhanas are Shravanam, Manana, and Nididhyasana. And they are meant to reveal in real time that which is not subject to change, that which is not transformable, and that is your true nature. Shravanam means Shruti Tatparya Nishchayam Yena Shravanam, that by which the meaning of the Shruti, the Vedas, the teaching is understood, is revealed. And it's meant to be a real-time unfoldment of what is present. And actually they say Guru Upadishta Vedanta Vakya Shravanam, listening to the Shastra, the teaching, as taught by the Guru. Because if you read a book, it doesn't work. Through my own experience and what Puja Swamiji taught me, this is a living tradition. For a long time, before I met Puja Swamiji, I'd read the Viveka Chudamani, and I'd open it up every day, and I'd open up randomly on my altar and be inspired. I go, oh, how inspirational, right? I had no clue that there was a systematic unfoldment of the vision of my own freedom in that text. But it was inspirational to me, and it was aspirational, right? But it was always going to remain inspirational and aspirational. And the last quarter, when I was at college, I saw that this Swami was going to come. And it conflicted with my Sanskrit class. But I chose to go to see the Swami who I'd never heard before. And in an hour and a half talk, he revealed what the Viveka Chudamani was trying to tell me. And it became as clear as I usually bring my iPhone, which is an apple. So it became as clear as the Hasta Malakavat, as clear as the apple on the palm of your hand. That's how clear this vision should be. Because the Vedanta, the teaching, is a pramana. It's a means of knowledge to reveal what's ever present, which is you. You are Swatasita Swaprakasha Atma. You are self-existent, self-evident, ever-shining awareness. You are here to make a mistake about yourself, and you are therefore here to inquire into the nature of yourself, and you are here to understand your true nature. Sometimes I was talking to somebody here when I was teaching last year, and he kept saying, we need to know the Atma. We need to know the Atma. And I took his hand. I don't know if you're here. I hope you're not here. I hope you are here, but I took his hand and I said, there's no Atma, there's only Atma. Right? And so you are here to be explored. You are here to be inquired into. And this is like I meant, meant to be a real-time unfoldment. This is not a belief system. And we're not here to learn about Vedanta. If you're here to learn about Vedanta, you may be in the wrong place. You may leave with a lot of information about Vedanta, but this is not an informational gathering exercise. The Shruti is said to be a pramana, a means of knowledge. And this is not a belief system. I was once teaching at a temple in San Diego, and someone came up to me and said, when will your preaching start? Right? Because I had gotten there early, and it would say, when will your preaching start? And I had to step back. Preachers are salesmen. They try to make you believe something. You only need to believe something which is away from you in time or space. We have beliefs. We believe the Shastra tells us there's Swarga, there's Karma, there's Adrishtapala, there's Punya and Papa, right? There's transmigration. We don't have any evidence for that, right? But the Shruti has given us so much freedom in the Jnanakanda, in the teaching of Vedanta, that we trust it presents a beautiful, cogent model that makes sense. Much more sense than other models that are presented. Some religions say that some religions actually, this is a bit cynical, but seem to imply that God needed a better quality assurance team. Because, quality assurance, you should not do QA once you ship the product. You should not do quality assurance when you're in the process of development. You should do QA at the design stage, right? Because apparently some religions say that God's first instantiation of humanity failed. And because of that failure, you are permanently stained. You are born stained. Right? And the only way to remove that stain is to believe in a story that happened way back when. Right? Vedanta doesn't say that at all. The historicity of the stories of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, or as we say in California, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, are relatively insignificant. Right? It's not a belief system. You don't have to believe. There's one thing to say, I believe in myself, right? Basically, that means I believe I have the ability to effect a change in the world, to meet my challenges, etc. But who you truly are, and we'll talk more about this, is immediately available for recognition. And so what we need to do is to listen attentively and personalize the teaching. So when the teacher says you say me, right? And the teacher says I, you say, oh, me? And when the teacher says Atma, it's not Atma, it's Atma, right? You need to personalize this. Okay. So this is Shravanam, to listen to the teaching. Mananam is the second aspect of the primary sadhana, and Mananam is Samshaya Nivrityartham. It's for the sake of removing questions and doubts. Because you can come to a class and you may have an aha experience. And you may see something that's beautiful, that's unfolded by the teacher, that's presented from the Shastra. If the teacher's vision matches the vision of the rishis of ancient India, right, and their teachings expressed in the Upanishads, etc., if their vision is firm in the teacher's vision such that it's his living reality, so he's a Brahmanishta, his main only interest really is this, or this is his living reality. And he's a Shrotriya, as the Mundaka Upanishad says, and he's a Sampradayavit. He knows the traditional teaching methodologies, and he has some communication skills. He through his teaching, he can create the same understanding in his shishyas, in his student's mind. The Akhandakara Vritti. And it's an aha experience, right? But we're not looking for a new experience here. We need to understand the truth of every experience. Because experiences come and go. You do not go. What is the truth of the ever-present awareful being that marks the coming and going of every experience, every thought, every emotion? That's what we try to reveal when we teach, right? And so this is called the Guru Shishya Parampara, the teacher-student lineage, right? One candle lighting another candle. And so it should be, you should take this teaching personally. And don't believe anything I say, right? Seek to understand. And so the process of asking questions is an integral part of this teaching methodology. It's called Mananam. Many religions don't want you to ask questions. Because if you ask questions, the devil has gotten inside of you. He's trying to take you away from the truth because you may think a little too hard and stop believing what it is, what they're saying about something. You may stop believing, right? And so Mananam, we invite questions. So there's an Upanishad called Prashna Upanishad, which is just an Upanishad of questions. Arjuna peppered Sri Krishna with questions, right? And embedded in the traditional bhashyas, the traditional commentaries, is this process called Purva Paksha Siddhanta, wherein other ideas are entertained and addressed, and the questions are raised and answered, because this is a knowledge-based tradition. This is not a belief-based philosophy. This is not a philosophy, right? What's the prayojana of a philosophy? What is the value add, right? What is the value proposition of this teaching? The value proposition, the prayojana, is freedom, is the absolute removal of samsara, and that's what Shravanam really is. It's a reality recognition technology or a samsara removal technology, right? And so the philosophy, you can have all sorts of philosophical understandings, but you may not have any freedom in your life. So the prayojana, the value proposition of this teaching, is freedom from sorrow, freedom from agitation, freedom from struggle, freedom from trying to find our happiness outside. Because we take ourselves to be inherently unhappy, so I need to find my happiness outside. I take myself to be inherently insecure, so I seek insecurity outside. I take myself to be inherently unloved, so I seek to be loved from outside. Someone once told me, Swamiji, we all want to be loved. And I think, why is that? Because I feel unlovable. I need to find my lovedness. I need to find my acceptability through someone else's eyes. Like in the bliss bubble of a beginning relationship, you can look in your partner's eyes and you find total acceptance. And in their acceptance of you, you feel acceptable, right? Which is unique, because we're usually find ourselves with so much unacceptability embedded in our self-identity. So you find your acceptability in other person's eyes until the bliss bubble pops. And then one day you forget to take the trash out. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. And all of a sudden this unconditional love becomes a bit conditional. I will love you if you take the trash out, right? And your very nature is unconditional love, because if you understand that the fullness, the happiness, the source of joy, the source of love is your very self, you have no agenda with the world. And if you have no agenda with the world, you can express unconditional love. People don't have to behave in certain ways for you to accept them and express love to them, because they have nothing. They're incapable of taking anything from you, and they're incapable of giving you anything of substance, because all of your ananda is, you understand that you are a complete person. And so Mananam takes what we've learned, coming back to Mananam, and you apply logic, you apply reasoning, you exercise your buddhi, the power of reasoning, to make sense of what you heard during Shravanam. And then finally, the third aspect of the primary sadhana is nididhyasana, often translated as contemplation, but it technically is viparita bhavana nivrityartham. It's for the sake, it's artham, its purpose is the nivritti, the removal of the viparita bhavana, the sense that I hold about myself that is not attuned does not align with what I understand myself to be at the time of Shravanam and what I've clarified myself to be at the time of Mananam. Because it takes a while for the rose blossom to bloom. Right? And so we need to anchor this vision in the core of our self-identity, so it becomes our living reality. And one way to do that is to take these nuggets of wisdom that have been packed with meaning at the time of Shravanam, and again have been clarified at the time of Mananam, and bring them into the quiet and space that we've now learned to create through the practice of dhyana and karma yoga and bhakti. We can create a quietude within ourselves, and we can bring this teaching into that quiet and space. And like purnoham, I am absolute fullness. Krita krityoham, there's nothing that the world that I need to do to be complete. Right? Satchidananda swarupoham, asangoham. All of these words are packed with meaning at the time of teaching. And so in this quiet and space of a meditative inner landscape, we say the word, we see the meaning. We say the word, and the meaning has to be there. And the only time the way the meaning can be there is when the guru packs the meaning into the word. We see the meaning, and we repeat the word, we see the meaning. Or we repeat the word, we see the meaning. We repeat the word, we see the meaning. The word disappears, and the meaning remains, and the meaning is you. That's how Puja Swami, that's how Puja Swami described it. Isn't that beautiful? And so when you can see this in this quiet and space, then you can bring that understanding, and again the fragrance, the beautiful fragrance of the quietude and the subtlety of vision that you acquire at times in Nididhyasana you bring out to the world. But again, it's all, the primary sadhana is listening. Panav punyena shravanam kuryat, they say. Keep listening until it becomes clear. And so we'll be presenting in the classes that come a number of very fundamental teachings of this teaching tradition. And we will be exploring that tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow, if anybody finds themselves to have an excessively long giraffe-like neck, we can discuss at Satsang. Om Purnamatav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Harihi Om.